Exactly what did you see?
Something was following us.
This is the most horrific event this town has ever seen. Authorities are calling this the Valentine's Day Massacre.
In the town of Harmony, something unexplainable
Hello?
is happening.
Come here, you better check this out.
What is it?
This January. Prepare to witness
What do you want?
the most frightening 3D motion picture event to tear through the screen. My Bloody Valentine 3D. Nothing says date movie like a 3D ride to hell.
I fucking love that so much. Every time I see that, man, it never grows old for me. Hey, everyone.
Yeah, because you've watched it
so many times. Yeah. You all know me. I host the ClassHorrorCast, Aran, and I'm joined by a best friend, fellow podcaster, fellow horror lover, music lover, fucking paranormal lover, conspiracy.
Yes.
Tom. Wait, no. Tom Thompson. Tom Cass.
Yeah.
The Reptilian.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, there's probably another one stuck in there. I used to love when we used to do like names. I'm gonna figure out one for you for Strange Brew podcast side.
Oh god, everyone can hear my dog in the background.
It's okay. It's when we first got Charlie. Juan was like one of my like used to come on the show for a series. He was like, "We're gonna have to like kill that dog." Because before I let him roam free because he's more trained, but I used to like keep him in the crate while I was recording, and it would just like nonstop barking. It'd be like horrible.
That's basically where I'm at right now.
I liked in the trailer that they put the chick running when she's in like actually naked in the movie. They put her in like red undies for the trailer.
You know, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah,
That's
which I
probably
wonder
my
if there
favorite
was more of a like a PG-13 or 14A version. Maybe they shot both scenes.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, we should. Yeah, they've got to have done something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just gonna, I guess, run through our thoughts post watching My Bloody Valentine 3D, which is a 2009 American slasher film, directed and co-edited by Patrick Lussier, who worked as the editor for most of Wes Craven films. He has a couple of other movies, cool. I think, that he directed and wrote. There's a movie called Trick. I don't know if you've seen that. And he has a couple of other pretty decent titles out there. It serves as a remake of the 1981 Canadian slasher film of the same name. It has...
the OG is Canadian.
Yeah.
Which will be coming for the Patreon. Obviously, that's why you subscribe. You get a little extra content, some different stuff on both sides of our Patreons. But I'm excited for that because I probably watched it when I was like 10, 11, 12. Like I can't really remember the OG one.
Long time since I've seen that one.
Yeah, so that'll be fun because I did not know it was Canadian, so that's relevant. So,
it has the dude from Supernatural, Jensen, whatever. I'm not pretty sure of his surname. It has Kerr Smith, who starred as is it Cody or Colby or whatever in Final Destination, the OG one.
Yeah.
Tom Atkins is in it. The movie follows, I guess, basically the same plotline as the other one. Residents of a small town that is plagued by a serial killer in mining gear on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it is spooky. And we talk about this on the commentary that I feel like it should be released around the same time as this, is that it is like with masks a lot of time, right? You don't really know who's under that mask, you know? So it's, and I said this too when we were first watching it, like stuff like the idea of being in a mine shaft is quite scary for people that just do that as a job. There's probably, like I said, hundreds, if not thousands of people around the world that have died when a mine has caved in or collapsed or frightening. Man, that's only real men can do that job. I want to see you go down there, ladies and lady boys.
If something like that were to happen to me, I think I'd rather just be crushed instantly
Yeah,
and
me
just
too.
die.
What about those
be
miners that
trapped
they
in.
escaped from that one mine shaft that collapsed, and most of them got out? There's like a famous story. I can't remember what happened. But it's yeah, I would rather be crushed than because you essentially after some time, I feel like you would be slowly suffocated. You know, like I guess if the or you would just starve, which would be
And
might be even worse.
how shit would that be, like that, like crazy slow death
What's
while
on your
being
shirt?
terrified? Only anybody who's into jiu-jitsu will know who that is. He's the greatest grappler of all time, Gordon Ryan.
Don't know. I have no
That's
idea. He
that's
likes
it.
giving the middle finger though.
It's a picture of him after he basically beat everybody at the World Championship.
That's cool.
So
I digs it. I would like to get in that stuff, but too much time sitting down talking about aliens and horror movies.
See, this is the thing, and I feel like people like us who have our personalities, we find it really hard sometimes to stay on one particular thing. And it's kind of like,
Yes.
maybe I was referred to it, and like, I don't want anyone to take great offense to this because I don't mean it in any like derogatory way, but like, it's like a form of like autism, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, I feel like I'm obsessed with horror movies, and then it's like, okay, but I'm also obsessed with collecting shit, and I'm obsessed with jiu-jitsu, and I'm obsessed with rap music, and I'm obsessed with books, and I'm obsessed with the paranormal, and it's like I can't
Yeah.
keep to just one thing.
Oh no, I have so many books I want to get into and read. I have all those David Icke books, which are gonna be fun to get into. But I have like another one about just like all about like the history of reptilians and stuff, which I read half of it, and I was like, oh, I haven't even finished this. That too, and like trying to like consistently keep up with horror movies. And then there's a lot of stuff, and then I'm always interested in the next thing, and also I'm obsessed with how much I hate my own government. So like, and the state of the world, which obviously can weigh on my mental health, which I'm trying to like, okay, 1 week I'm gonna try not to look at anything to do with it, but it's all on my Instagram feed and my TikToks and all
That's
that
the
stuff,
thing, you
right?
can't, like, and something like that especially, you can't escape. But I think I drove
No,
myself
so many news
insane
articles.
during COVID. Like, I
How
became
Canadian
super
is this,
obsessed.
eh?
Oh wow. Oh, and you even said A.
I actually got a green tea because I am getting more into teas now instead of like coffee. Because like sometimes like I don't really necessarily need a coffee because I take all this like the mushroom stuff. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
super Canadian. For all the obviously audio listeners, I have like a legit Tim Hortons cup, drinking right from the cup. Obviously, for people that are not from Canada, be like, wow, eh? That's
So,
crazy. Tim
so
Hortons,
for
corrupt
people who
company.
for people who don't know what Tim Hortons is,
It is a coffee place that's really corrupt and doesn't let unvaccinated kids go to camp. Essentially, in a nutshell, just joking. But it started off and it was like a very Canadian thing, right? Donuts and coffee, and like their coffee was fairly good. And now it's obviously could become a corporation, just like McDonald's or any other one, and it's kind of turned to shit like a lot of those companies do. But we're known for Tim Hortons. I call it Tim Hornies sometimes. There's a lot of fun names. I was like named after some hockey player. Don't like sports. Don't care.
yeah, I don't like sports or care. Other than MMA or jiu-jitsu, I
Yeah,
literally couldn't
I do
care
like
less
UFC.
about.
I know.
I kind of despise sports. Sometimes I look at people who are into sports, and like I see dudes who are like crazy into like NFL, and like they collect like the
Yeah.
sports cards and shit. And I'm like, I feel like that's cool and I kind of admire it, but then I'm like, I also couldn't give a fuck about sports.
No, because at the end of the day, right, I do believe it's kind of used somewhat as a distraction and stuff like that. And not all people, but a lot of people that they just focus on sports. Like I was somewhere and I was talking about a political conversation with like three people, and I'm not gonna like name names, but like the one guy's like, oh yeah, I don't really know, I don't think about that, I just watch sports, and it's like, yep, that's why you're not really informed and know what's really going on because you're just distracted. And I've always made that point to get off a little off topic, but the point that we'll ride over a Vancouver game and destroy cars and all this shit, but not when your government is taking away your rights and shit. So
But yeah,
even if
but
you
it
don't
does all
notice,
it does, like, not to get too off topic, but it
yeah,
does all feed into that, as in the sense of like, oh, make sure and watch your sports and subscribe to all this shit, and
yeah.
make sure to eat all your trash and your junk food and get
We
drunk
know what
every
happened in
weekend.
Rome. It was the same thing. So
Fuck's
they
sake.
fell, and they were like, go to the Coliseum. Watch this guy fight a lion. And it's just like, don't worry about that. It's poor all outside of the Coliseum.
It's true.
Okay, back to Bloody Valentine.
Okay, so
Wait. Let's get into Valentine's Day. What do you think of it? What's your thoughts? Because this will be coming around that week, so.
I think Valentine's is a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. Again, it's just another one of those, without getting too conspiracy-esque, it is another one of those like fucking ploys to just gouge people for money.
Yeah, capitalism. It's marketing.
The only thing I enjoy about
Consumerism.
Valentine's is having an excuse to watch movies like this and Valentine from 2001.
Yeah, which I would like to. When we were talking about doing something for Valentine's Day, which could be a next year thing, I feel like I recently watched in the past year, and I still liked it. It's one of those cheesy, like, and we were talking about this when we did the commentary. Those cheesy kind of your early 2000s. I feel like there was about 10 years throughout the 2000, 2010, where there was all these kind of nostalgic movies. Now, when you look at them, that were slasher films and try to bring back that genre and have people go out like a date night and get scared, and then it kind of fell off to an extent.
Do you think though that era doesn't get enough credit, considering that it's like less than 20 years ago some of these movies came out and we already consider them like super nostalgic and retro? Like, does that not say a lot for how good they might have been for the time?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to get into where we were talking about doing like a series, even if it's consistently over like a month of doing like a couple thousand movies and then coming back to that maybe and doing that kind of stuff, because like there is those movies we're talking about where you go and you bring a girl, and I was like, hey, either a young teenager, late teen or whatever, and you go and you want to cuddle up and get scared, and you're like kind of inching your fingers over just to hold a hand, so like, in that, those are very nostalgic to kids from the 90s, even
I
in the
thought
80s.
you were about to say you're inching it into something else.
Yeah. The popcorn, I cut a hole in the popcorn. It really hurt the hot butter on my cock, but I kind of liked it. It served as lube.
The salt and shit.
Yeah, it hurts so much. You look at your dick at the end and it shriveled up like a snail.
Jesus Christ, there's a visual for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, so this film, I didn't actually know. I thought this was shot in Canada as well, but it wasn't. It was shot in Pennsylvania just because of, apparently at the time, the tax breaks there were better than what they are in Canada.
Yeah, it's cheaper. That's why people they film like some of the Batman shit. A lot of movies in Toronto too.
Majority
and eventually
of
I
things
would
are in Canada, to be fair. Anybody that thinks like, oh, that movie was shot in New York, like the new Scream movie was shot in Canada.
Yeah,
And
that's fairly cool.
They just had B-roll shots of New York City.
For the Patreon, I found this movie. And I was like looking up, what was I doing? I was looking up some art or whatever, and I think it's called Canada Day, and it's like a really low budget horror movie, and I kind of want to watch it. This is as a commentary.
Yeah, so this was the first R-rated film to be projected in Real D technology and to be given a wide release of 1,000 locations in 3D enabled theaters. It was released on January 16, 2009 by Lionsgate. It grossed 100.7 million worldwide on a budget of 14 million.
It's pretty good, because this is one of those movies where you go in for like date night kind of shit.
Do you know what's crazy about that, right? And just to speak to something that's more modern, I'm pretty sure that I'm not 100% on the budget. I'll pull it up right now as we're talking. So obviously everybody's ranting and raving about Megan right now and the fact that it made 100 million at the box office. So this movie done the same amount of money, but you don't hear, well, I suppose people think that this is better, but everybody talks about how well... okay, so Megan was shot on a $12 million budget and made 100 million at the box office. So that's going to be pretty good.
I liked it, like I told you, and I wanted to, well, it might be out before this if we discuss it, because I want to.
Yeah, so I suppose with this movie, you get, it's a pretty basic...
You get a long nude shot, you get fucking murder, you get like everyone being conspiratorial. I can't say it right now. Towards like the boyfriends, like that's a lot of like the guys who done it kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's a pretty basic setup, I guess. If you know anything about the original My Bloody Valentine, it's quite similar. But there is some curveballs thrown in there. There's a couple of red herrings, I think, and they kind of switch back and forth. When we
Yes.
watched it again, I don't know how I feel about that switch and bait at the end.
Yeah.
I remember at the time being like, "Oh my god, wow, that's
Yeah.
so well done." But like, I don't know if it's aged that well.
Yeah, I found it a wee bit cheesy.
Oh yeah, it's like
This is like,
super cheesy.
and I don't know if because obviously if you're listening to this, you probably have seen the movie. There's going to be spoiler alerts, obviously, but like that, what's his name's character from Supernatural? I don't know if he really plays a scary bad guy that well.
It's very like it seems very fake. Like it's like when you tell
Yes.
someone like be like a scary bad guy. It actually seems like somebody just told him that, so he puts on this weird like scowl and he's like, "Now I'm bad, Tom." And then like he tries to be all like, "Now I'm good, Tom." It's like, and I guess they probably could have really pulled off like that weird like PTSD mental illness thing better had.
Yeah.
And I had seen that in a lot of the reviews for this movie. It has generally like decent reviews, but any of the negative ones mention like the cardboard or wooden characters,
Yes, yeah.
which I could kind of see like he is very wooden.
Yeah.
It's
I'm a
just-
real boy.
Yeah, it's just like he's just, I don't know. I just feel like he can't pull that off. And even at the end, when we get the reveal, like that he's him, even the way he's acting and like his look, it reminded me like fucking Zoolander or some shit.
Yeah. No, actually, a really good point. I got the black lung pops. You've been down here for 2 days. There, sorry, I love that shit. But it like to me, it makes like it is like that very like cardboard cutout caricature. And the thing is too, it's just because he's like a pretty boy and he was like the heartthrob, and then it does seem a little cheesy, and I don't think he could have pulled it off, but it was fine for what it was at the time. But now looking back on it, it's just like you can't. He can't play that very like psychopathic. And what I honestly like, and I don't like to like add my own points of what I would do, but like essentially when they reveal that it's him, I feel like they should have shown like throwbacks to him being in the asylum or maybe him escaping, and like showing more of that character of how he's kind of like psycho without like, just kind of drip feed it a little bit as the scene's taking place, where he's like hitting the lights and shifting back, and a little more context of how crazy he really is. You know what I mean?
And I think, I like obviously I can't speak for it, but I feel like maybe that might have been the intention somewhere in the background for a sequel, to maybe show some more flashbacks of stuff like that.
And then it never happened.
Yeah, like I do know the guys had talked about it quite a bit. Even up until recently, they've talked back and forth about like this may potentially still happen, and every couple of years the studio reaches out and they kind of say, "Hey, we might want to do My Bloody Valentine again. What do you think?" And the guys have had a script, and apparently it was greenlit, and then like a week before or after this movie released, they were just like, "Yeah, no, it's just, we're not going to go ahead with it. We're going to do something else."
And at this point, like it would almost, you'd have to like redo an entire story and make it better than both of them, and like put time and effort into actually creating a construct and a story that will resonate with people nowadays and stuff, and make them scared.
Like for as much as I would love to see a sequel to that cheesy movie that I love so much, I just feel like box office wise, nobody else from the mainstream audience will be like, "Oh, cool, we're getting a sequel to a movie I didn't hear about that came out like fucking 15 years ago," right?
Yeah. And how many times have you seen it, Aaron? Just for like everybody.
I think I've seen it like it's like 11 or 13 times. I can't remember.
So crazy.
In the movie theater in 3D.
So nuts. It would have been fun in 3D, especially like if you had like a beer, and like you're like, because you can get beer in the movie theaters now. Like, and this is why I always envy Anton in that theater that he goes to, whatever, that's in Buffalo. They always like the horror night stuff, because I would love to do that, and like, or have like, and I'm sure there is something that's like an hour away from me that does this sometimes, but I've looked into it and I don't see it that often around my area, where you can go back and watch these like even early 2000s, 90s movie, 80s movies back like in theaters, because I would love to like watch the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre in theaters. Like I might do it this summer out in the backyard with the projector, but like it's still not the same as a surround sound in the theater. So I always envy those people that have those things around their area. Because this would be fun to see in 3D. Honestly, that'd be fucking awesome.
I'm actually surprised that they haven't tried to bring this back again. I feel like that if you were to bring this back around Valentine's as like a,
one of those like nostalgic movies or whatever. Where they run those sometimes or throwbacks or whatever they call them. But
I feel like honestly, if you were to give this a wide limited release thing again, like to be like okay, do like a global event and be like okay, this Valentine's weekend only for 3 days. You can do this like date movie, My Bloody Valentine.
It would draw people in.
Yeah, I reckon it would definitely make millions, easy.
Yeah, and I feel like horror is growing and getting worse but better in some ways. It's up and down, and like nowadays it seems like you have to be careful about everything. That's why we have no good comedies anymore. They're gone. No good. I said that to Chelsea. I haven't seen a good comedy in like 3 years. But at least with horror, they can still dance around the line of like offensiveness and stuff like that, where people are like, if you have one loud, even 10 loud people, that is the issue, right? That like when people get angry about shit in movies and with the way the world works or the way a comedian does it, if you're a loud person, you're gonna make waves, and most people are just gonna be annoyed by you.
So for the sequel,
yeah,
I'll be interested to get your take after each piece of this. So
Okay.
the story for the sequel, they would have opened with Axel and Sarah in an ambulance, and Deputy Martin, which I think was the black guy, would have been still at the site and is now in charge because Axel had been pickaxed towards the end of the movie. We
Nice.
have Axel headed to surgery, and Sarah, pacing back and forth, goes to call her mother about her son. While she's in there making a phone call, she sees bloody footprints, and then Martin at the mine would find the body of the rescue worker that Tom murdered and stripped of his clothes, and he immediately knows what that means. Obviously, at the end of the movie, we see Tom escape, very similar to like fucking Michael Myers in H2O.
Yeah. Very, very similar.
It's like the exact same thing, nearly. Back at the hospital, Tom comes out from behind Sarah and attacks her, but we can clearly tell that it's no longer Tom, it is now Harry, which is what we saw at the end of the first movie. As Axel is in surgery, the surgeons are about to put the mask over his face, and then Axel hears Sarah scream, so he starts fighting with the nurses and doctors. He lunges off the table. Meanwhile, you have Tom chasing Sarah down the hallways of the hospital. He shoves her to the ground, about to kill her. There was Deputy Ferris, who was in the original film. She went into the house with Sheriff Burke, portrayed by Tom Atkins in the previous movie. We were going to bring everybody back from the previous movie that was willing to come. She comes around the corner with a gun. Tom freezes, and Sarah gets help to her feet. Then Axel comes around the corner, all bloody. And that's the sort of distraction Tom would have needed. He attacks and kills them. Take pickaxe through the temple, blah, blah. Like, none of this all sounds very generic. I can kind of see in a way why Lionsgate maybe went. But he says that they loved it. And like they were like, yeah, good, we're good to go.
Yeah, I don't, man. It just sounds like everything. It just sounds like a repeat of like Halloween 2. Going to a hospital, and
yeah,
murdering everybody.
Like he falls off a balcony at the hospital at one point, which seems very like the start of fucking Halloween Resurrection.
Yeah, and this is the reason, obviously, why we have talks to do. Obviously, talk about Megan and The Menu, which are both movies that I enjoyed, that I thought were different. You have to like, especially nowadays, you can't for nostalgic fans, right? If you want to do that, then you got to I don't know. You can do slasher films, I think, well. In this day and age, if you actually plan it and have a good story behind it. But if you're essentially going to do that, then give the fans what they fucking want and go back and start doing some like Friday the 13th movies and actually do a good Nightmare on Elm Street movie, with good actors, because that was the fucking issue with the remake. It was good using good actors. People that actually can act.
So for this movie, right, all the shit goes on in the hospital. There's all these big crazy fights, and we get all these different scenes in different parts of the hospital.
And how does it get out? Because everyone would be on high alert.
So,
How does it get out? Because everyone would be on high alert.
So,
Everyone would be on high alert. Because the like you'd be on high alert. Because everyone would 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 be on high alert
At one point, then Tom and that chick that they've both been fighting over, he
Yeah.
locks them in a room together, and Axel, the cop, he can't get in to help.
Yeah.
She starts spitting up blood. She collapses to the ground, and then Tom is revealed with his bloody pickaxe and Sarah's heart in his hand.
Oh, no way.
Right? So then it says at that point, Tom is glaring at Axel. Axel is glaring at him through the glass door. And then Tom comes back. It's not Harry anymore. He's staring, shocked and confused. He sees the pickaxe and he sees the heart in his hand and Sarah at his feet. He falls to the ground. Oh my God, what have I done? Meanwhile, Axel is staring there, glaring at him through the door with the no way any man has ever glared before. While Tom is sitting there and he is cradling the dead Sarah. Then the title card would shoot through the screen. My Bloody Valentine 3D Part 2. The words slam out of the screen. That's a hell of an opening. Yeah, I think so. Blah, blah, blah. So apparently that's only the opening scene. And then from there,
Yeah,
they were going to
he must
shoot
get...
a year later. There's a psychiatrist involved. And I think it was kind of what you were saying, that we're going to dive into like how Tom, his whole mental illness and all that shit, and how he tied himself to Harry Warden.
Yeah, because that's weird. You need to explain that to an extent. Like in honestly, if this came out now, I would probably say it wasn't the greatest. In the way they did it, but because it was like the early 2000s, it kind of went well as one of those movies that you like, the date night movies. You want to get a little scared, especially in 3D, it'd be fairly fun. So it's interesting to see that they would lead it that way. And yeah, to me, for what it is, it's good because it's just a basic slasher film, essentially. A little bit of a twist at the end.
Yeah, this one probably, the sequel would have had some cool scenes, I think. Like at one point, it goes right back and it shows Tom being committed to a mental hospital, and then eventually he escapes, but he decides to go back and he releases all the inmates.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and then he's like going through the insane asylum, like killing people, and they're all killing each other and going crazy and shit.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I feel like what both of us have said though, now, yeah, it's just not gonna work.
No. Especially like because it's been so long, you'd have to redo it and write it a totally different story, and maybe add some like, especially because people love that shit, some paranormal events happening. You know what I mean?
Okay, so he had said, even if by some miraculous means that they came back to us and said, so we're going to do another one. Myself and Patrick have now decided that we wouldn't really use that story anymore anyways. This story opened at the very end of the previous movie. Everybody is now 10 or 11 years older. We have loosely talked to Jensen, Jamie, Carr about doing a sequel. They're all still in, but now we have decided to go for a completely different story. So Sarah's grim fate may not be a foregone conclusion anymore. This will be in a completely alternative universe. This was the end of last year. This would be in a completely alternative universe. We would have to do something completely different.
Yeah, you would. Weird. And in fact, they're still talking about it.
Yeah, he reckons that it's going to get made at some point. Like, it's obviously probably not going to be a part 2. They're just going to have to reboot the whole thing again.
Yeah, that's crazy because out of the time that's passed, and it's like, I'm going to make this happen. And like, you know what Hollywood loves to do, right? They like to recycle. That's what they do. Yep. That's what they're known for. Everything is recycled because, and even some of the books I've read, right, it talks about the hero's journey, where every structure of a movie mostly has the hero journey. And when it doesn't, people normally don't like the movie, but it's essentially that you have to have a prominent hero, good guy, kind of, and then you kind of have to, there's always the same arch. A lot of the same, every movie is made almost the same way if you look at it from the background.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I do think
what's your favorite kill scene?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to think. And like the gore is definitely a redeeming quality. Look, some of it is kind of cheesy and like over the top, but it is fun. And like I do think they succeeded. The guy massively.
In the hospital bed.
Yeah, like I don't think they intended this to be like any sort of super serious like. And it wasn't really supposed to say much. It was just supposed to be like what you said. It was like a fun date night movie that you go and watch mindlessly. You didn't really have to have any context of like who the fuck Harry Warden was or
Yeah,
anything like that.
and they've done this before, and it's done well
Yeah, like
for
I
what
mean,
it
it made a
is.
shit ton of money. I mean, if
That
I
was the
had
goal.
if I had 14 million and somebody said if you give me 14 million, I'll give you 100 million. I mean, I'd do that trade.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I like that. I would say my favorite kill probably is the pickaxe through the chin, and then how he rips off his fucking jaw, because that's pretty brutal. Like that is crazy. And then and then he kind of kicks him off, which I'm like, I don't know. Could you not survive that? You know what I mean? If you got your jaw ripped off, it would depend.
I feel,
Dudes in
yeah,
war have had their fucking faces blown
that's what I
off,
was
and
just
then they
gonna
just
say. I feel like
reconstruct
I've
it, and you look
seen
like you're
dudes
a
who've
horror
been
movie
like
villain.
guys who've been fucking blown up by shit in
Mhm.
like Afghanistan and stuff, and like
Yeah.
have come back with like fucking no arms, no legs, half a head,
Oh
no
yeah.
dick, and it's like,
So there's some scenes, and that I can't help but be like that and be like, oh, but it's supposed to be for fun. That's all this is. This movie, I believe, was just made for that, just for some fun, gory, date night film. Like, let's get scared, have some jump scares, and it probably would have been a lot of fun to see in 3D. So, like, that's fucking cool that they achieved this and they made all that money. So they kind of did what they needed to do.
yeah, they need to bring that shit back. Just bring it back for like a Valentine's weekend or something. All
I
the
would
movie
love to see that.
theaters. So how many out of 5 hearts? How many hearts would you give this?
Okay, in the context of time of when it came out, I would say I'll give it I'll give it a I like a 4. And if it came out nowadays in the same structure, I would probably say like a 3, 2.5,
Yeah,
because a 5 is just small scale, but that's what I would say.
yeah, 4 I think is a pretty solid. Like if you're basing it off of what it tried to do versus what it
Yeah.
done and the time period it was in and the era of like style of movie, I feel like
Yeah.
that was like you said from 2000 to like 2010. So obviously this was on like the back end. This was
Yeah,
probably
of
one of
all
the
this
last
stuff.
few movies that like actually worked from that
Yeah.
era.
Because because that's where I was like, oh, this was out at that time where that kind of was coming to a close of all these like fun slasher like date night movies. Because I want to talk about what was it, The Call, the last whatever the fucking, because remember seeing that in theaters, but I think that's the last time I've seen it, and I remember liking it. See, and that's why I'm like, we should get into stuff like that. And this was kind of led us into like when we were talking on the commentary. So if you are watching this or listening to this first, go check that out, because you can hear our thoughts as we're like watching the movie and stuff like that, and watch it along with us. It'll be a lot of fun. But we were talking about like doing these early 2000 movies to like a little later 2000 of stuff that I maybe haven't visited in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and would be worth talking about, and especially that movie, because I remember being in the theaters and it being packed. It'd be fun to do a commentary and then a review the same style as this.
Yeah, I fucking love that idea, and I love that movie as well. That's a comfort movie for me. Every now and again, I used to watch that a shit ton, and now what I try and do is watch it like once every like other year maybe. So I kind of like
Yeah.
forget a little bit, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's watch this again.
There's been a lot of stuff that we want to do. That's why I was here, because I have so many ideas of stuff I want to talk about.
For everybody who's gotten to the end of all this, so you've listened to the commentary, you've listened to the review, we want
Give us
to
your thoughts.
yeah, we want to hear what you think of this movie, but also anyone who does make it this far, reach out to either of us on social or through our emails with a catchy name for that series. So what we're looking at is those movies like When a Stranger Calls, The Hitcher.
Yeah, my stranger. Yeah,
Let's see, Joyride, is that what it's called?
Joyride. Yeah, I actually just watched that recently, like the last year or so. I was like, yeah, I like, what's his name? The guy that ends up playing the villain, so to speak, kind of thing.
I know the dude you're talking about with the voice.
I love that dude, man.
He's a
I liked all his
creepy
movies.
fucking dude.
I know, Strange Wilderness. There's also that other movie I'd like to talk about where they're like on that remote island and he's in it. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, and it's good. And they're like kind of stuck on an island. They don't really know, people are dying, and nobody gets why. Oh fuck, what that movie? It's gonna bug me, but let me see if I can bring it up really quickly.
So yeah, like I was saying, like for anybody who has gotten this far, we want to hear your thoughts, or no, not even your thoughts. suggestions or ideas for what we could call that series of that time period.
Yes.
So like we're looking at things like The Hitcher.
Steve Zane is this guy's name. Yeah, The Hitcher would be fun. There's like there's tons of ones I'll be like, oh shit, I haven't seen that in a long time. And you're like,
yeah, like we have, let's
what
see.
is that?
We've got The Hitcher, When a Stranger Calls. I'm trying to think of other shit that came out around the 2000s. I'm trying to pull up stuff here as I'm talking.
A Perfect Getaway. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That movie is actually good. Like, there's some
I saw
like
that in the
shocking
movie theater,
scenes in
I
that
think.
movie. Yeah, I actually like that, and that's another kind of 2009 and more of a thriller. But that's a good movie that had some like twists and turns that I didn't even expect.
I'm trying to see what other movies we could pull from. There's another one called Amusement, actually, I think, which would be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hatchet is another one we could do. The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be a big thing though, because I actually like really love that movie. And technically, I feel like because there's lots of 2000 horror movies, I feel like they should be more aimed at slasher films and stuff like that. Because like even eventually, like just I was looking at a list. I would love to eventually talk about American Psycho because that movie is, as Anton would say, chef's kiss or some shit. Like I like that movie a lot. So there's a lot of ideas in the works. So we're super excited. Obviously, Jeepers Creepers could be a fairly good one because that's also early that movie, man. When I first saw it in my buddy's basement, freaked me the fuck out.
Such a good movie.
Obviously, we're gonna do a series about the Final Destination movies, which is gonna be its own thing. And even just talking about early 2000 stuff, Ginger Snaps, man, that fucking movie got me when I was a kid.
Dead Silence is another one I would like to talk about.
That movie, dude. I want to talk about Dead Silence eventually because that shit, I remember watching that at a buddy's house, really stoned, and probably being one of the scariest movies I've seen in a long time when that did come out. And just freaky. It's like, I don't really like puppets and old creepy ladies. And I feel like that definitely has to do a commentary because I want to watch it with you and then a review the same style.
That's such a good movie.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, for everybody that's gotten this far, reach out to me on First Class Horror on Instagram.
Yep.
Or Tom. Is it at
Strange Brew?
Strange Brew?
Strange Brew Podcast, yeah. And then the email too at gmail.com, Strange Brew Podcast. It's very easy to find. Most of our stuff is like www.strangebrewpodcast.com. The website's pretty updated, but I got to fix a couple things. Add Aran in as one of the co-hosts and a little things I want to switch around, but you can find mostly everything on the website. That's why I promote it fucking so much because it's easy. I debate on doing a link tree, but essentially the website has most of the things you need anyway.
And right, I'm going to put something else out there, right? If you've listened to this and gotten this far, obviously you're a pretty dedicated follower, fan, supporter, or whatever. So if you do end up coming up with a kick-ass name and we decide to use it for the series, I will actually send you something, some sort of
that's dope.
A gift or a thank you or something like that. And don't worry, it won't be something shit. It won't be just like a piece of paper or anything. It'll be something nice.
Hi, on a piece of paper. Hello.
Thank you. So yeah,
awesome.
Keep an eye out for all that content. Like I said, reach out.
I'm so excited, man. There's so many things where I'm like, we have this fucking long list and stuff for Patreon, stuff for my show. There's so many things in the works, and I want the fans to be excited too because like there's so many things that we're gonna dive into. That should be a lot of fun. Like, I think eventually, even for the Patreon, doing like a double feature movie night. Where we can watch some older flicks that we could actually put up on the Patreon so you can watch it with us as a live thing and drink. Like have 4 or 5 drinks and just have a little fun with it, and then so everyone can kind of enjoy themselves. Like I actually like that idea a lot.
If anybody's wondering why Tom prefaced that whole thing with 4 or 5 drinks, if you haven't already heard about, there's a bit of a story about the Halloween special last year that I ruined. Which we will have to rectify with something good soon.
This year. We're going to start doing live shows too. It will be eventually on the Patreon. And I was joking to Billy that it'll be cut as soon as Billy leaves. Because Billy's like, I left at the perfect time. And I was like, yes, you did.
So. Things just went downhill.
So there's a lot of fun stuff to do with that because I would be super into like, for the Patreon, kind of having like people can like have beers with us, technically chat with us live as we watch some movies and stuff like that. I like it. All right.
Peace.
See ya. Stay strange.